a deadly superbug. At least 2 are dead. Over 170 people possibly exposed in L.A. What's to make of this epidemic in such sicknesses? Nurse practitioner Erin Tolbert on whether this bug should have you bugging out. What do you think, Erin? What's going on here?
Well, what happened here is that contaminated medical equipment was used to perform procedures on patients at a hospital in UCLA. So we see 7 people infected and 2 people have actually died of this infection. And the problem here is that this medical equipment contained a bacteria we call CRE, which is resistant to a lot of antibiotics. In fact, most antibiotics. So the antibiotics that we typically use, that we think of as our last resort, are not effective against this kind of infection. And so 50% of people who get this infection in their bloodstream die. And this is a real problem. We've seen outbreaks of this before. It's a very dangerous kind of bacteria when it's on these endoscopes that are used in these procedures.
But how does it spread beyond there, Erin? I mean, besides those who at the hospital, what happens?
Right. Well, we really don't see this spread among our homes and our schools, for example. It's really a hospital-acquired infection. We see it in people in long-term care facilities, hospitals. So what happened in this case is that these devices are very intricate. They have small cameras, small equipment at the end, and so they're difficult to clean. Bacteria get in those nooks and crannies, and you can't get them out very easily. So unless FDA protocols, manufacturing protocols are followed very closely, they can potentially be used on one patient, get infected, be used on another patient, and then transmit that infection down the line as they're increasingly used on more and more patients.
But you see what people listening and watching it right now are going to start saying, you know, I'm afraid of going to the hospital because that's where people get sick, and that's where a couple of these unlucky people died. And you do hear this. How do you disavow them of that notion that, hey, a hospital's a bad place to end up because you might not get out?
Right, right. Well, recognition is the first part of the problem. We saw a similar outbreak of this CRE bacteria for the same reason in Seattle in 2012. This hospital then implemented new protocols and procedures. They have what they call the penalty box for these endoscopes. And so once they're used on one person, they remain in this special area for 48 hours before they're used on another patient. They undergo more testing, and they've not seen any incidents of this since. And so that's what this hospital in UCLA needs to do. And ideally, across the board, we really need to increase these standards, these protocols when it comes to using these medical devices that are very difficult to clean. So, you know, overall, there are about 500,000 of these procedures done every year in the United States, about 100 cases of this CRE bacteria as a result. So the odds are really in your favor, but we do need to step up these cleaning procedures and protocols when it comes to these equipment.
Yeah, I always worry about the doctor doing it, too, you know, like.
Right.
If he hates Fox, I'm like really burnt, you know. Erin, thank you very, very much. I appreciate it, really. Very good insight.
Thanks for having me.
Meanwhile, did